بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. No answer or what? There we go. Always remember, when someone gives you salam, give you the stranger in the street. If they give you salam, it is wajib, an obligation upon you to respond to the salam. So, welcome to the new series of lectures, inshallah, that we will be spending I have no idea how long we're going to be spending on this, but I'm planning to take my time, inshallah. Islam 101. And inshallah, bi'idhnillah, in this series of lectures, we will be covering, as you can see, Aqeedah, Hadith, Fiqh and Seerah, all at a very high level, at an introductory level. But when I say introductory level, I don't mean that this is going to be completely beginner level. We are going to go into details, but we will avoid certain issues. And I will explain what I mean as we continue moving forward. So we will start with Aqeedah, and we will explain Aqeedah, we will define Aqeedah, and explain what does it really mean to be a Muslim, a believer. We will move on to Hadith, and we will explain what is Hadith. And the plan is, inshallah, every week we will take one Hadith, and sort of, if you've been with us in the Seerah program, then you're already sort of kind of familiar with what we do. We're going to do the explanation of a Hadith, except we're going to add a little flavor to it, inshallah. And we will then go and cover fiqh. And we will explain what is fiqh and what kind of fiqh that we will cover. And we will then move on to seerah. And seerah, it will not be as detailed as the seerah that I gave in the previous series. So if you are with us in the previous series from start to end, and you still remember all of those lectures, then honestly, without any exaggeration, you probably know the seerah better than 90% of the Muslims around the world. But either way, if you did not attend the series, then you will have a chance, inshallah, to get an overview of the seerah. We will not go as much into detail as we did in the series, the previous series, but we will still cover the key details, inshallah. So I can see a lot of boys and girls are arriving and they're coming in. So if we can fill in the first seats first forward, just so that when people start coming, because I expect it to become a little bit crowded, I don't want people to start coming into the front and around and moving around. So please try to fill in the first seats first. Now, before I get started, and before I dive into the lecture, just 3 points that I would like to mention, inshallah. First of all, this is a series for those who are interested in knowledge, ilm. And we're going to talk a little bit about ilm. But realize that knowledge and gaining knowledge requires certain manners and certain behaviors. So while some of us might be attending just to fill up the time or just to see our friends, please respect the place of ilm. Meaning, if you are here to chit-chat with your friends and you're here to play and have fun, by all means do that, but don't do it here. Go and do it upstairs, go and do it outside, go and do it wherever you want. Just please do not do it in this hall. This hall is a place of knowledge, so please respect the knowledge that is being taught. Number 2, we're going to be teaching a lot of information. And I would like you to treat this like an actual course. So what do you do at school when you arrive to a course? You take out your notebooks. I highly recommend, I'm not going to enforce it, you can do whatever you want, you're free to do whatever you want. I highly recommend all of you bring a notebook, something to write on, because inshallah there will be definitely something new that you'll be learning, and you will not be able to memorize everything all at once. You will need to write it down read it, study it, just so that you don't find yourself lost in the amount of content that is being taught. And finally, part of attending the place of ilm, you have to understand that there is punctuality, and I mean arriving on time. So the lecture is announced for 3 p.m. At 3:10 sharp, I will begin, and I will not be waiting for anyone. So if you want to gain the most out of this lecture, make sure you attend on time, and please relay this message to your parents. I know it's summertime, I know the weather is beautiful, I know it's the weekend, you want to go to the park, you want to go with your friends. That's none of my business really. So make sure, if you want to benefit the most out of this, 3:10 sharp, I will be starting. I will not be waiting for anyone. So I recommend you show up at 3 just to get yourself set up. 3:10, I'm going to get started. Cool? Right. So before I jump into Aqeedah, I decided to set up this a little bit of a warm-up activity, and I'm curious to see how this is going. So the way that this activity is going to go, certain people or characters are going to show up on the screen. You don't have to say anything. Just, I'm going to ask a question, and raise your hand only if you know the answer to the question. I'm not going to pick on anyone, by the way. So just raise your hand. I just want to know how many people know the answer to the question. Okay? Got it? So, we'll start with this guy. Raise your hand if you know.
Which video game? Oh, Mike already died. Subhanallah. Okay. That's why I brought spare batteries. I knew something like this would happen. Okay. Alhamdulillah. It happened at the start. Better than happening at the end.
Okay, we're back. Raise your hand if you know what video game is this from. And be completely honest. And I'm just gonna say, by the way, just so that you don't feel bad, I know the answer. If I were attending this class, I would have raised my hands to all of these questions. So you're not gonna look bad if you raise your hand. Okay. Raise your hand up high if you know the answer to this question. What video game is this character from? Don't answer. Okay. Raise your hand if you recognize the skin. I said don't answer. I said don't answer.
Oh, so it is.
I'm saying if you know the answer, just raise your hand. If you recognize the skin and you can name it, raise your hand. Okay. Raise your hand if you have over 50 games played in this game. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Some of you are putting your hands down. I know you should be putting your hands up. Okay. Allahu Akbar. Okay. Raise your hand if you know the name of this character. Raise your hand if you know the name of this show. Okay. Raise your hand if you know who this character's best friend is. Okay. Raise your hand if you've watched all the episodes. Don't lie. Or at least most of the episodes. Okay. I'm raising my hand too, by the way. Okay, next. Raise your hand if you recognize this person.
Just like that. Okay, this is so shady.
Okay. Raise your hand if you can name this person.
Oh wow.
Raise your hand if you've memorized any of his songs.
I don't think so.
I'll put my hands up for this one.
Somewhat.
Somewhat.
I just
Okay.
heard it so much.
Somewhat. Okay. I feel like some of us don't want to raise our hands. They just, okay. Moving on. Raise your hand if you recognize this person. Okay. Raise your hand if you know his name. You don't need to answer the question. Raise your hand if you've watched all the movies.
No. I haven't watched a single movie, a single book.
Okay. Allahu Barik. Okay, you can put your hands down now. You can put your hands down.
We should go somewhere like
So, now, bear in mind the questions that you raise your hands up to, okay? And I'm saying this again, this is not meant to make you feel bad. But, we're gonna do the same activity, but this time I don't want anyone to raise their hands. And I don't want anyone to answer. I just want you to think for yourself, and think honestly for yourself, and reflect. If you are in the middle of Dhuhr prayer, and all of a sudden in the middle of the Salah, you don't know if you have wudu or not, you're not sure. Think to yourself, no hands raised, no answers. Do you know what to do? If I were to ask one of you right now, what is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah? What does it mean when I say Rabbil Alameen? Do you honestly know the answer to this question? Would you be able to name the family members of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his parents, his children, his wives? If I were to ask you right now, again, you don't need to answer the question. Just this is meant for you to think. These questions that I put up on the screen are of the most basic information about Islam. And if we don't know the answer to one of these questions, we got a problem. We have a problem because Allah Mubarak, you can recognize all the characters in Fortnite, and you can name me all the skins in Fortnite, and you are ready to watch videos and game for hours and hours and hours to build experience in the game so that you learn how to do all these fancy buildings and master all of the weapons and techniques. Yet a quarter of that time, many of us are not ready to dedicate that for learning our deen. You're quick to recognize Naruto. And many of us have watched over 500 episodes. I don't even know how many episodes there are.
1,000.
1,000. MashaAllah.
So the guy watched it twice.
And many of us have watched over 500 episodes, if not more than that.
I know someone who's watched it 2 times.
I watched it 2 times. There you go.
No, I know someone.
You know you can tell me his name, you can tell me his favorite food, you can tell me his friends and his story, and you can name me all the good people, and you can name me all the bad and evil people in the story. Yet, you can't even name the family of the Prophet. That man, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who will take your hand and bring you to Jannah because of his intercession. It's too boring. I want to play games. It's too boring. I want to watch anime and I want to watch TV shows. You're ready to listen to Eminem and Jay-Z and 50 Cent and all of these filthy musicians, even though, by the way, music is not something you should be listening to. And you're able to sing and recite their lyrics, both the clean and the dirty. Let's be completely honest. Both the clean and the dirty lyrics. You've watched, and some of us have read all the Harry Potter books. Some of us even more than once. And you know all the characters, and you know all of the spells, and you know all of the events, but you don't even know how to pray correctly. And I'll repeat it again. What I'm saying right now, I don't mean to make you feel bad, Because at the end of the day, inshallah, all of you are coming here so that you can learn, so that you can increase in your ilm and your knowledge. And inshallah, you continue to come every week. But what I'm saying here, I'm simply showing you a small glimpse of the situation of the ummah today. The situation, not just of the youth, of even the adults. The sad reality is many adults cannot even answer the questions on the screen. Adults. Our parents maybe even. It's sad, but it's true. Even though these are very simple and basic and fundamental matters. So, we have to understand, knowledge has so much benefit. There are so many virtues and benefits from gaining knowledge. Mentioned both in the Quran and in the Sunnah. In fact, Quran itself is knowledge. Quran itself is ilm. And Allah highly praises the people of ilm all over the Quran. You will find so many verses in the Quran. I've only listed a few of them here. Of the verses, is the verse in Ali Imran, شهد الله أنه لا إله إلا هو والملائكة وأولو العلم قائما بالقسط. وأولو العلم. Allah witnesses لا إله إلا الله. Allah is saying لا إله إلا الله. And the angels believe لا إله إلا الله. And then Allah says, and the people of knowledge, they also believe لا إله إلا الله. Look how Allah is linking knowledge directly to belief in Allah. Meaning, true believers are people of knowledge. True believers, those who truly believe in Allah, are people who have knowledge. And in another verse of the Quran, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. This is a command to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That, Ya Rasulullah, make the dua and ask Allah, increase me in knowledge. Notice, not increase me in money, not increase me in my life, increase me in knowledge. And Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, by the way, in his entire life, only made 2 du'as to Allah to increase him in something. One of them was asking Allah to increase him in knowledge. Who knows what the second one is? He made dua, Allah, increase us in milk. Because Prophet Muhammad loved milk. And so when he drank the milk, he says, oh Allah, bless us in this and increase it in it. But the point here, ilm. Allah commanded him, ask your Lord to increase you in knowledge. And in another verse, in Surah Al-Mujadila, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. Allah shall elevate those who believe, and especially those who have been given knowledge. Those people are elevated several ranks. Once again, look at the link between elevation, ranks, and knowledge. Then in another verse in the Quran as well, I didn't write it down here. Allah asks a rhetorical question. هل يستوي الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون? Do you think they are equal? Those who know and those who do not know? Allah is asking that question in the Quran. Not because Allah wants an answer, but Allah is telling you, there is no comparison between the two. Between the person who knows, the person who has knowledge, and the person who has no knowledge. What is the first verse in the Quran that got revealed? Iqra. Iqra. Read. Meaning, go learn. Go learn. Go gain knowledge. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Allah has taught mankind that which he did not know. So go and learn. اقرأ. Allah has made mankind superior to every other creation in existence, including the angels. Why? Because He made us better looking? Because of knowledge. And it's in the Quran again. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. That we all know the story of the creation of Adam and the prostration of the angels to Adam and whatnot. But Allah displayed to the angels, even to the angels, that Allah has preferred mankind over the angels. How? He taught Adam that which the angels did not know, to indicate that this creation, I have honored him. How did I honor this creation? Knowledge. And by the way, just a side note here, the knowledge that I'm speaking about here is not only limited to the knowledge of deen. Yes, the best kind of knowledge is the knowledge of deen and the knowledge of Islam. However, this knowledge is applicable to any kind of knowledge. It could be to the knowledge of deen, knowledge of Islam. It could be also the knowledge of math. It could be the knowledge of science. Any kind of knowledge. Just don't sit still and think that khalas, I've finished learning. And this is the bad mentality that many people who finish university, they have. I'm done learning. I'm done with school. I'm done learning. You're done learning, you're done elevating. That's how it is. You're done learning, you're done getting honored. That's how it is. And we have several hadith, just to mention a couple as well. All of them very, very famous hadith, and all of them authentic hadith. Man sadaka.
Like you're the one who's giving the lecture.
Okay, I don't know. Hopefully it's Man sadaka tariqan.
Even the backup needs a backup, huh?
Even the backup needs the
Let's try this out.
Okay, hopefully this continues working. In another hadith, all of these are authentic hadith, by the way. من سلك طريقا يلتمس به علما سهل الله له طريقا إلى الجنة. Whoever takes a path seeking knowledge, Allah shall pave the path to Jannah for this person. Allah shall make the path to Jannah easy for that person. You want easy access to Jannah? Go and gain knowledge. In another hadith, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهْهُ فِي الدِّينِ. Whoever Allah wishes good, whenever Allah wishes good for anyone, Allah grants them the understanding of the deen. And another, there's many hadith as well out there. مَنْ دَعَا إِلَى الْهُدَى كَانَ له مِنَ الْأَجْرِ مِثْلَ أُجُورِ مَنْ تَبِعَهُ. That whoever teaches something about knowledge, he shall have the reward of that knowledge and the reward of anyone who benefits from that knowledge. So, all of these are benefits of knowledge. Let us keep this in mind when it comes to gaining knowledge and when it comes to attending these lectures. Boys in the middle, again, I made my rules very clear at the beginning. This is a majlis of ilm. This is not a place for chit-chatting. Please, you can leave the room. The boys in the middle who are talking, please leave the room. So, let us jump into the first section. And we'll be talking about Aqeedah. Now, what is Aqeedah in the first place? So we're defining it from the very beginning. In the Arabic language, the word Aqeedah comes from the word Uqda, or Aqada, or Al-Aqd. And all of these mean similar things. And all of them... Abdurrahman, can you go to the main office? Are you coming for a second? Please go to the main office. If you go all the way to the end, you go to the left, there's a wooden box. If you open it, there should be batteries inside. Just bring the whole bunch of it. Bring the code. Yes, bring the code. Okay, hey. Boys and girls, please, I didn't say you can start talking. So I'm gonna continue with my voice for temporarily until I get my batteries, inshallah. So,
You guys, boys and girls, you can hear me? Okay. So, the word aqada, al-uqda, aqeedah, all of them indicate similar things. And all of them come from the meaning of tying something, binding something, or pulling something with a lot of strength. And this is why in Arabic, for those of us who know Arabic, for example, when we say someone got hired, they got a job, we say he got a aqd in his amal, aqdul amal. He got a contract in his work. There's two sides to it. There's a binding agreement for them to get hired. Or the Quran also mentions, for example, when people get married, it is called uqdatun nikah. Uqdatun nikah. It's not just called nikah. It is called uqdatun nikah. The bond or the binding contract of marriage. Look how the meanings are all similar. Or as well, when you swear an oath, when you say Wallahi al-Azim or Uqsimu billah, this is called Uqdatul Yameen. You're swearing an oath. MashaAllah. Okay. Let's hope some of these work. So that I don't have to. Yeah? Like, you can take these ones and throw them in the garbage. I should start getting my own batteries, huh? That doesn't even light up. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah.
Because can't use those in the bag again. Get them when we
Well, the next time we email buddies. Come on, first.
Okay, we are back temporarily. Inshallah, these batteries are good. So we all understand what is Aqeedah in terms of the Arabic language. So now, when we talk about Aqeedah, when it comes to religion, so when it comes to religion, it specifically means the belief. So when we talk about Aqeedah, the first word you should think about is belief. Okay, someone needs to leave. Someone please needs to leave. Anyone who's talking, just kick anyone out, please. Please, I mentioned at the very beginning, this is the first lecture, I'm taking these rules very seriously. If you do not have the respect to this place, please leave this place. This is your final chance. So, when it comes to deen, religion, when I say Aqeedah, the first word you should think about is belief. So when we say, and it is specifically the belief that someone has in their heart, but not just any belief. It is a belief with full certainty. You're 100% sure about something. You have no doubt about it whatsoever. This is what it means when I say Aqeedah in terms of religion. And I'm not saying about Islam, I'm saying religion in general. So some people are Christians, some people are Jewish, some people are Muslims, some people are Hindu. So some people, different religions have their different Aqeedahs. But when we say Aqeedah, this is what we mean. The belief that you have with full certainty. And this is why in the Arabic language, when someone says A'taqidu, it means I believe with full certainty. I believe with full certainty. And Allah defines the true believers in the Quran in Surah Al-Hujurat. إنما المؤمنون الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله ثم لم يرتابوا. Notice this. ثم لم يرتابوا. They never had a shred of doubt in their hearts. They believed in Allah and in the Messenger, and they had not a single doubt in their heart. This is what it means. This is how Allah defines Aqeedah to us. And when we specifically talk about Aqeedah in terms of Islam, so this is Aqeedah in terms of religion, just any religion. But Islamic Aqeedah specifically, we are talking about the pillars of Iman. So when I say the word Islamic Aqeedah, I want your brain to go to the pillars of Iman. And the pillars of Iman, we'll cover them right now. So please, I would recommend you write these down and memorize them. The same way you know 1 plus 1 is 2, the 6 pillars of Iman. Believing in Allah. Now what does it mean to believe in Allah? Mainly, of course, it means to believe in the existence of Allah. It also means to believe in the uluhiyyah of Allah, the divine qualities of Allah. The divine qualities of Allah. And the rububiyyah of Allah as well. The lordship of Allah. The control that Allah has over His creation. How Allah manages His creation. This is part of believing in Allah. And in al-asma was-sifat. In the names and the attributes of Allah. We all know Allah has how many names and attributes? The 99 names and attributes of Allah. It is part of believing in Allah to believe that Allah has these 99 names and attributes. This is the first pillar of faith, believing in Allah, and it is arguably the most important one. The second, the belief in the angels. Believing in the existence of the angels. Has anyone here seen an angel before? Nobody has seen an angel. But you believe that they exist even though you have never seen them. This is called the belief in the angels. And when I say believing, keep in mind Aqeedah, full certainty. It's not just like a 99% chance that, okay, there's a 99.9% chance that angels exist, but there's a 0.1% chance in my heart that angels don't exist. This is incomplete faith. This is incomplete Islamic Aqeedah. So believe in the angels. Believe in the books. And when I say the books, it doesn't only mean the Quran. So it does, of course, include the Quran. And everything that is in the Quran. Everything from ilm of the unseen. Everything from the prophet stories. All of believing in everything inside the Quran is part of believing in the Quran, it's part of believing in the books. But it is not only limited to the Quran only. It is also includes every scripture that Allah has revealed before the Quran. Such as Suhufi Ibrahim. Such as At-Tawrah. Such as Az-Zabur that was revealed to Dawood. At-Tawrah was revealed to who? Musa alayhi salam. Such as Al-Injil. Who was Al-Injil revealed to? Isa alayhi salam, right? So all of these books that were revealed before, we need to believe in their existence as well. We need to believe in them. This is believing in the books. It also includes another pillar, the belief in the prophets and the messengers. And once again, this is not just limited to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And remember, when I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you have to say sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So make sure you are saying that. It also includes all the previous prophets as well. Musa and Isa and Ilyas and Idris and all of these prophets. Those whom we know that are mentioned in the Quran and those whom we do not know. And there are tons of them. We need to believe in every single one of them. So you cannot say, a Muslim cannot say, oh, I believe in Prophet Muhammad, but I don't believe in Prophet Isa. This is, again, incomplete Iman. You are not completing the pillar of believing in the prophets if you're saying, oh, I don't believe in that prophet. We believe in all of the prophets. And it also includes another pillar, believing in the day of judgment, the last day, that there will be a day that all the mankind will be resurrected back from the dead, and everyone will be, reckoned. It's a day of reckoning. Everyone will be questioned. There will be a scale, good deeds, bad deeds, Jannah, Jahannam. There will be a day of judgment. We believe that there is a day of judgment. And believing in the qadr of Allah, the decree of Allah. What does this mean? That everything is written. Allah has written everything that will happen, both the good things and the bad things. So, believing usually in the good things is easy. Like you enrolled you registered for a competition, and you won the competition. You won $1,000. It's easy, mashallah, Allah mabarak, to feel happy and to believe in Allah when the good things start happening to you. Alhamdulillah, your family is in good health, they have good wealth, everyone is good, life is easy. Alhamdulillah, I believe in the good decree of Allah. Okay, what about the evil? What about the bad things that happen? Let's say you got sick. Or let's say, may Allah protect all of us, my baby, you were walking and you tripped and you fell and you hit your arm and you broke your arm. This is the qadr of Allah. This is something that Allah has decreed. The same way you accept the good that Allah has brought down, you accept the bad or the evil decree that has happened to you. This is, all of these fall into what we call the arkanul iman, the pillars of iman. Therefore, when I say Islamic Aqeedah, this is the picture that should come in your brain. And it means to believe in all of these 6 pillars. Once again, how certain do you have to be? 100%, not a single shred of doubt. So this is why, right now, I want you to think for yourself. Again, don't say it out loud, don't say anything out loud. Think to yourself, as I'm speaking right now, and as I explained every one of these pillars, can you truly say that you 100%, without a shred of doubt in your heart, you believe in all of these? That even though you've never seen Allah, even though you've never seen Prophet Muhammad ﷺ or any of the prophets, even though you don't know, you've never seen an angel, even though you've only heard stories and hadiths and incidents about the day of judgment, but you've never seen the day of judgment. Are you a believer in all of these? Only a true believer who has a firm Islamic Aqeedah in their heart would be able to say yes. And this is the goal for every single one of us in our lives. If you are able to achieve the full faith, this is how you want to die. If you die with these 6 pillars of faith firm in your heart, alhamdulillah, you're in a good shape. Now, Islamic Aqeedah has different names. So if you go and read different books, you will find different terminology when it comes to Islamic Aqeedah. Of them, Tawheed. So sometimes I will say Aqeedah. Sometimes I will say Tawheed. These all refer to the same thing. Sunnah. Sunnah is actually a synonym, another name for Islamic Aqeedah. In some books, it is referred to Usuluddin. Usuluddin is in Arabic, translated to English, the principles, the foundations of the religion. Because everything starts with the pillars of Iman. Then after you establish that belief in your heart, that's when every other thing in Islam is built upon this. This is the base foundation. Without it, you cannot have deen. So this is Usuluddin. In some other texts, they refer to it as Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar, the greatest fiqh out there. Now what is fiqh? We're going to explain that later in the lecture today. But the greatest section of fiqh is referred to as well as Islam, is the Islamic Aqeedah. The word Sharia, we've all heard this word Sharia before. Sharia, once again, refers to Islamic Aqeedah. And the word Iman. So they are called the pillars of Iman. The word Iman, it refers to the Islamic Aqeedah. So if you hear me saying any of these words, or if you open an Islamic studies book or any book, and you look and you see any of these words, what should your brain think about? The pillars of Iman, the picture that I showed in the previous slide, the 6 pillars of Iman. This is what it is talking about here. Clear? Now, what is the evidence that this is Islamic Aqeedah? Now you see there's an important concept. We're going to explain this in future lectures as well. But there's a fundamental concept when it comes to Islam. And that is everything in Islam is backed up with evidence. How do you know that I'm sitting here, not just making things up from my head? That I just didn't just sit yesterday, last night and think, okay, you know what? What's a very nice sounding pillar of Iman? Okay, you know what? Let me put angels. How do you know that I'm not making this stuff up? Well, everything is based off of evidences. Everything in Islam is based off of evidence. And the number one evidence is the Quran. So, Aqeedah is taken mainly from the Quran. And if you read the Quran, if you flip over to Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah reveals a verse. And Allah mentions, ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين. Right? So it's the verse in the Quran, very explicit. This is a verse in the Quran. It was revealed at the time when the Qibla got changed. We're going to mention that incident in the Seerah in the future. The Qibla got changed from Masjid Al-Aqsa to Mecca. The Jewish people who were in Medina, they said, look at these weird Muslims. One day they pray in this direction, one day they pray in that direction. What kind of religion, what kind of belief is this? So Allah responds to them, and Allah says, righteousness is not about you praying that way or praying this way. True righteousness is believing in Allah, believing in the Day of Judgment, the last day, believing in the angels, believing in the books, believing in the prophets. In another verse in the Quran, again in Surah Al-Baqarah, the endings, most of us have this verse memorized. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله. Right? So it's very clear that Allah says, look, the messenger has firmly believed in Allah, and so did the believers. How did they firmly believe? Because they believed in Allah and the angels and the books and the messengers. Now, by the way, why don't some of the verses mention, other or the Day of Judgment or whatnot? It's very simple, because if you believe in the books and you believe in the Quran, you believe in what's in the Quran, and in the Quran it mentions the Day of Judgment, and Prophet Muhammad also told us about Al-Qadr. And this verse, if you don't have it memorized, you should memorize it. It was a gift given to the Prophet ﷺ during Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. During Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj, and you should be reciting these verses every day before you go to bed. Anyhow, another evidence of Islamic Aqeedah is the very famous Hadith, which is a Hadith that we will also cover in the future. The long Hadith narrated by Umar al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu, also known as Hadith Jibreel. The Hadith where Jibreel came disguised as a man, and he started asking all of these questions. Tell me about Islam, tell me about Iman, tell me about the Day of Judgment, right? Tell me about Al-Ihsan. One of the questions, tell me about Iman. What does it mean to believe in Allah? Jibreel is asking Prophet Muhammad, not because he doesn't know, but because he wants to teach the Sahaba and the Muslims what does it mean to believe in Allah. And Prophet Muhammad, he responded, it is to believe in Allah and the angels, and in the last day, the angels in the books, and in the last day to believe in the books, and to believe in the decree of Allah, the qadr of Allah, both the good and the bad. Clear? So if anyone asks you, what is the evidence? How do you know that these are the 6 pillars of Iman? Where did you bring this from? You can pull these evidences for them, and you can be like, "Fadla, here you go. This is my evidence." Clear? Do we have any questions so far before I move on to the next section? Yes, you have a question.
Who invented the Hadith books?
We're going to talk about Hadith. We're going to talk about Hadith. I'm talking about, if you have any questions about anything we've discussed so far, knowledge or Aqeedah. If you have any questions before we move on. Yes?
What's knowledge mean?
Knowledge is knowing something. Right? So if you know a lot of things, it means you have a lot of knowledge. Okay? You want to know what knowledge means? You have a question? They all refer to the same thing. They're all referring to Islamic Aqeedah. So we call them synonyms. It's interchangeable names. Any other questions? Okay. Shall we move on to Hadith? So, let's talk a little bit about Hadith. Now, before we, as I mentioned at the beginning, inshallah, the plan is every week we're going to take a Hadith and we're going to explain it in detail. And the goal is that you should all try to actually memorize the Hadith that I'm trying to give you. So, but before we get into that, we need to define, we need to start from scratch. What is Hadith? Now, once again, if we're talking about Hadith from the Arabic language, the word Hadith is coming from the word Hadatha, or Haddatha, or Yuhaddithu, Hadith. Hadatha is a verb, it means something took place. An incident, an event took place. The word Haddatha, it means to speak. So to talk, to speak to someone. You know, if person Haddatha another person, it means this person spoke to this person. The word Hadith literally translates to a conversation. So if you, like, you can technically go home today and tell your parents, oh, I heard the Hadith between, I don't know, I heard the Hadith between Abdurrahman and Ibrahim. It just means a conversation. I heard a conversation. That's what Hadith literally means. Now, when it comes to Islam, Hadith has a more specific meaning. First of all, Hadith is the second primary source of learning anything in Islam. The first primary source is the Quran. The second primary source is Hadith, what we call the Hadith. Now, when it comes to Islam, Hadith is referring to the sayings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Anything that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said is called a Hadith. And there are many different types of Hadith. So some types of Hadiths, you will read the Hadith and you will find it has a wisdom or a piece of advice that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is giving to another person. And there are many examples of this. For example, many of us have heard the famous Hadith of the person who came to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and he asked him, give me one piece of advice. And the Prophet said, لا تغضب. Don't get angry. He's giving him an advice. Don't get angry. And the man asked, okay, give me another advice. He says, don't get angry. Give me another advice. Don't get angry. And he kept asking and asking, and the Prophet kept saying, don't get angry. Don't get angry. And from this we learn that you should control yourself. Anger is not a good thing. But the point here is, this is one type of Hadith. You will learn a wisdom from it. You will learn a piece of advice from it. Some Hadith, and these are the ahadith, these ahadith are primarily where we learn fiqh from. And these are hadith that talk about actions which the Prophet did. Actions. For example, when we come to learn about prayer in fiqh, how do we know how to pray? It's all based on hadiths that explain and describe how the Prophet ﷺ did his prayers. So some hadith, they talk about the actions of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Some hadith, they will talk about not what the Prophet did, but what the Sahaba did in front of the Prophet. And the Prophet ﷺ, he approved it. Or he didn't comment on it, meaning that he approved it. So, for example, where do we learn the adhan from? The adhan was actually not something that the Prophet ﷺ taught to the Muslims. It was something that was given in a dream to one of the Sahaba. And the Sahaba checked with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ said, good to go. Then it was taught to Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu anhu. And Bilal started giving the adhan. And Bilal started doing certain things in his adhan. Certain movements, certain actions that the Prophet didn't tell him to do. But the Prophet saw him do it and he approved it. So this is also one kind of hadith. You will find actions that the Sahaba did and the Prophet approved them. And you will find another section of a hadith which simply are telling us stories or incidents and events that happened during the time of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And of course, this is the primary source for the seerah. Most of the things which we explain, that we will explain in the seerah, is coming from these kind of hadith. From whether it is talking about the battles, whether it is talking about the torturing that happened in Mecca, whether it is talking about the death of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, all of them coming from a hadith. So this is what we refer to as hadith when we speak about Islam. Make sense? Okay. Now pay attention to this next point. And by the way, this picture that you, before I move on to the next slide, this picture that you see in front of you, I purposely chose this picture because now how did they bring all of this hadith that the Prophet said? How do we know it today? It's because the Sahaba would hear something from the Prophet, right? So for example, we all know, we've all heard the name Abu Hurairah, right? And there's not a single person who has never heard the name Abu Hurairah. So Abu Hurairah, he would hear the Prophet saying something, and then he would teach it to another Sahabi, or he would teach it to his students. And then their students would go and teach it to their students, and their students would go and teach it to their students, so on and so forth, right? So, and this would go on until later on in time, and probably we will discuss this in more detail probably in future lectures. Until later in time, you have famous scholars. Now they're very, very famous, of course, like Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, or Al-Imam Muslim, or Al-Imam Al-Tirmidhi. And all of these famous scholars of hadith, they took all of these ahadith and they wrote them down in massive books. And today we all know Sahih Al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Jami' Al-Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Majah, and all of the books of hadith. This is how we today we get our hadith. Now, hold up a second. If I'm saying hadith is given from one person to another, the Prophet gave the hadith to Abu Hurairah, and Abu Hurairah gave the hadith to someone else, and this person gave it to another person. What if one of these people are lying? Or what if they forgot the exact words? Or what if they changed something about the hadith? How do I know that the hadith that we're gonna learn today, or the hadith that you see in Al-Bukhari or in other books, how do I know for sure that what I am reading is actually what the Prophet ﷺ said? Now, you guys are still with me? To answer this question, we honestly need a whole series of lectures just to answer this one question. But I am going to summarize it to you, inshallah, in a way that all of us will be able to understand. Have you guys ever heard of the game telephone?
Yes.
You know, we played it in school, probably. You know, when one person says something at the beginning, and then I whisper it, to someone, and then the person whispers it to the next person, and the person whispers it to the next person, and it goes around the entire classroom, right? And then what does the last person have to do? They have to say or try to guess what the first person said. And what usually happens? It all gets completely messed up, right? It gets completely messed up. So, narrating hadith, believe it or not, is actually very similar to telephone game, except it is very heavily monitored so that people don't make mistakes. Okay, so this is like a very brief summary. And we don't call this, in hadith, we don't call this game telephone, we call this game chain of narration. Or the Arabic word for it is isnad. You should memorize this word, isnad. So when I say isnad or chain of narration, you should think to telephone. Telling one person to another person to another person to another person. This is what chain of narration means. So, what happens starting from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So Prophet says a hadith. And then from this point on, a Sahabi hears the hadith, he teaches it to another person, he teaches it to another person, he teaches it from one student to another, to another, to another, from generation to generation to generation to generation, until we reach 2024. Until, like, from 1,440 years ago, we reach 2024 through this process. Now, in order to make sure that what I'm saying in 2024 is exactly what the Prophet said, we have scholars of hadith. What do these scholars of hadith do? They look at every person in this chain. You understand what I mean by chain, right? They look at every person in this chain. And they have this massive checklist. Okay, is this a person that we know? Is he a person of knowledge? Is he healthy? Does he have a good memory? Is he known to speak the truth? Is he an honest person? Is he this? Is he that? They have like over 100 questions that they check with every single person in this chain, in every single hadith. And there are over 40 names in each hadith. So scholars of hadith, they have a very tough job, because they literally have to study over 40 different names and check their life and check so many different things just to make sure that the hadith did not get changed. If they check these people and they find out that, you know what, we didn't find an issue with any of these people, they put a stamp on the hadith and they say this hadith is authentic. So we can very reliably say that this hadith is actually something that the Prophet ﷺ said. However, if they did this process and they're checking the names one by one, then they run into a liar. And they notice they're studying the names, they say, okay, this guy is fine, this guy is fine, this guy is fine. Whoa, who's this guy over here? And then they read about this person and they find out that this man was known to tell a lot of lies. Or maybe this man, he was a very old man and he had memory problems. Or this man, he used to forget a lot of things. Or this man would always change the words. They would say, okay, we have a problem now. This person should not be someone who's taught hadith. So what do? They put the stamp on the hadith and they say, this hadith is a weak hadith. Now obviously, this is very high level summary. The actual process is so much more detailed than this. There's an entire field of hadith just to study what I explained to you in the past 5 minutes. But I hope at the very least you can sort of make sense of, does this sort of make sense? Okay, everybody, I didn't lose anyone. This is, by the way, why I told you need to bring a notebook and start writing down. Because if you don't, you're going to lose track very quickly. So, with that said, now we can move to the hadith that we will explain this week. And honestly, this is a hadith that I was not planning. This is actually not the hadith that I was planning to explain and to start with. But since this is the hadith that I shared with you, with those who attended the seerah, on the last day I told you this is the hadith, I decided, khalas, it is what it is. We will do an explanation of this hadith. And today, for the sake of time, usually I pull people up and I get them to share what they researched about the hadith. But just for the sake of time today, just because it's the first day today, we're going to skip that. I'm going to do an explanation of the hadith. But starting from next week, and I'll explain this later at the end, the hadith will be shared with you. And you can go home. I want you to do a little bit of reading on hadith, write down some notes, and you will have a chance, if you are interested, to come to the front and share what you found out about the hadith, and we will give you a small prize if you volunteer and go ahead and do that. And then I give an explanation of the hadith. But for today, we're going to skip that. So today we're going to explain this hadith. عن أنس رضي الله عنه. أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى الله عليه وسلم. And of course, just a quick point here. Remember that chain, that big massive chain? Usually, when we put a hadith, we don't put the whole chain. Otherwise, I'm gonna need like 10 slides to fill the hadith. So I skipped the entire chain, but I will put to you at the end that, oh, Al-Bukhari said it is authentic. Okay? So, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم انصر أخاك ظالما أو مظلوما. Help your brother, whether he is an oppressor or whether he is oppressed. قيل يا رسول الله هذا نصرته مظلوما فكيف أنصره إذا كان ظالما. So the Sahaba were confused. That Ya Rasulullah, it makes sense that if someone is being oppressed, that I should help him. But if someone is oppressing, someone is being an oppressor, what do you mean go help him if he's an oppressor? So قال تحجزه وتمنعه من الظلم. And in another narration أو تمنعه من الظلم فذاك نصره. You can help him by keeping him from committing oppression. This is the hadith, end of the hadith. So, the narrator of the hadith is who? Who narrated this hadith? Bukhari, but who is the actual Anas ibn Malik? And something that inshallah we're going to be doing, we're going to read a little bit about each of these narrators, who they are. So just a little brief introduction to Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. Anas ibn Malik, you will find his name in many hadiths because he is one of the famous narrators of hadith. Who is Anas ibn Malik? Before you go and talk into Anas ibn Malik, of course Anas ibn Malik deserves a whole lecture on his own. Who is Anas ibn Malik? But I'm gonna, again, summarize in 3 or 4 minutes. Anas ibn Malik is like I said, one of the big narrators of hadith. But before you talk about Anas ibn Malik, you have to talk about his amazing mother. His mother, Sulaym radiallahu anha, was a lady out of all the ladies. Something else. Her love and dedication to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ really stands out amongst all the women, even amongst the women of the Sahaba. Because she was of the first of the Ansar. And the Ansar are who? Who are the Ansar? The Muslims of Medina, who accepted Islam in Medina. So she was of the first of the Ansar to accept Islam. And since that day, she was so eager to learn and to stay close to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and to be with him wherever he goes, to the point that she would even follow him to the battles. She would go to the battles with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Can you imagine this? She lived close to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And she was so devoted to him that when she had this young son, Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, she gifted this son as a servant to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What kind of mother does this? Now, of course, it doesn't mean that Anas didn't see his mother anymore, but it means that Anas, khalas, go and live with the Prophet now. And you're going to be serving him for your entire life. So this was, Anas ibn Malik was actually, and he was at this point a very young boy, 10, 11, 12 years old. And he was gifted to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ as a servant. And this is why Anas ibn Malik narrated so many ahadith. Because he was literally living with the Prophet ﷺ. He heard so many ahadith. He got so much knowledge directly from the Prophet ﷺ because he was always with him. And he had direct access to him. And the Prophet ﷺ, he loved Anas ibn Malik so much. And he would actually call him Unais. Unais. And you know, just like, for example, if your name is Ahmed You know, your parents, they love you. They want to give you a nickname. They call you Hamoudi, you know. Or, you know, maybe your name is Umar, they call you Amour, or whatever. This, and that, you know. They're giving you this cheeky name, but it's out of love. They love you, so they're giving you this cheeky nickname. So, the Prophet ﷺ would refer to Anas ibn Malik as Unais. Oh, Unais. As a part of love for him. And he was also known among the Sahaba, and he was given a title, a very honorable title, Khadimu Rasulillah, the servant of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this was a title that Anas ibn Malik was so proud of, and he held it high. It was such an honor to him to be called the servant of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he stayed at the side of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the moment he entered Medina till the day away. And he learned so much, and as I mentioned, this is why he was a very big narrator of Hadith. After the death of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, there were many incidents that took place. He spent time helping Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, serving Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, and then Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhuma. And then there were a lot of problems and trouble and fitnas happening in the area at the time. Anas ibn Malik, he says, I don't want anything to do with this anymore. So he moved away. He moved away and he traveled. Initially he traveled to Damascus, and then from Damascus he traveled to Basra. Basra, which is does anyone know where Basra is? Iraq. In Iraq. So Basra in Iraq. And in Iraq, in Basra, he did what he loved the most, and that is speaking about Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So he would teach the Hadith, he would give the knowledge, and he lived a very, very simple life. He had his own farm, he would grow his crops, he would sell some crops and just make a little bit of money. And he lived, generally speaking, a very long life. In comparison to the rest of the Sahaba, Anas ibn Malik was of the very last Sahaba to die. And he died in the year 93 Hijrah, after Hijrah. Natural causes, there wasn't anything special that happened to him. He died as an old man in Basra. So this is Anas ibn Malik. And he is the one who narrated the hadith that we're going to explain. Now the hadith that we explain, what do we benefit and what do we learn from it? Do we all know what is oppression? Does anyone not know what is oppression? Dhulm. So you know, you hit someone for no reason. You know you're stronger than someone, so you go and hit them. Or you know you can steal from someone, so you go and steal from them. Or you speak badly about someone behind their backs and gossip and slander and backbite. This all falls under dhulm. From this hadith, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is telling us, help your brother out, whether he is being oppressed or whether he is oppressing. From this one statement, help your brother out. It's an order. Unsur, order, he's ordering. Every Muslim has a duty towards one another to prevent any type of oppression. You see, there is a bad mentality that we have today. And everybody lives his life minding their own business. I don't have anything to do with anyone else. Khalas, let me just mind my own business, and I got nothing to do with anyone. Well, this is wrong. Because the Prophet is telling us, you have a duty towards one another. Now, as for helping someone who is being oppressed, so perhaps you see your Muslim friends, someone is hitting them, and they're not able to defend themselves. You have a duty to go and help them out, to stop them, to prevent the damage. If you see someone harming your Muslim brother or sister, maybe stealing something from them. It's obvious. You go and you try to stop that. But the one point that I want to focus on, and this is the disease that we have in our society today. Please, if you want to play, leave the room. If you want to play, leave the room in the front. You can go to the back, please. So, the one point and the one disease that I want you to be cautious of, and unfortunately many of us, even in this room, we are falling in this disease. Your tongues. Backbiting, slandering, gossiping. Unfortunately today, the only interesting conversations are the conversations that involve other people. Did you hear what that person did? Did you hear what that person said? Do you know where I saw that person? Oh, you wouldn't believe what I heard. And you start talking and talking and talking and telling your friend, and your friend tells their friend, and you're thinking, oh, just a casual conversation, and you don't understand that you're committing dhulm. And this is a dhulm that Allah is going to ask you about on the Day of Judgment, and you're going to have to answer. And if you're unable to answer, that person will be taking from your good deeds. So, boys and girls, next time you're in a circle with your friends, whether it is upstairs in the masjid, whether it is at school, whether it is in Circle K, wherever you are, and you start hearing your friends having conversations about other people, speaking badly about them, putting them down, exposing sins, speaking about things that you know the other person does not want you to be speaking about, then you have a duty to prevent this oppression. You have a duty to prevent this oppression. At the very least, don't take part in this conversation. And of course, we are all painfully aware of the situation in Palestine. Even the situation in Palestine. Look, okay, you're not able to prevent the oppression by your hands, unfortunately. I can't do anything. I can't go grab a gun and go and free Palestine. Unfortunately, I don't know how to do this. So don't do it with your hand. Do it however you are able to. Today you have social media. Today you have, schools, awareness, news. You need to speak. You cannot stay silent. You cannot say, this is none of my business. I'll let the sheikh do it. I'll let that person do it. I'll let that person do it. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to get in trouble. You're not fulfilling your duty if you're doing this. So you have to be cautious about this. These are all different forms of standing with your Muslim brother against oppression. Now the Prophet ﷺ, he says something interesting. That you have to help your Muslim brother even if he is the one oppressing. How come? Does that mean if I see someone stealing that I should go and help them steal? Does that mean that if I see someone hitting someone I should help them beat the other person up? That if I, along those lines? Of course not. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, you help him by stopping him. You help that person by stopping them. You see someone who's about to cheat in an exam. Look, Akhi, you're hiding from the teacher. You're not hiding from Allah. Allah's going to question you about this. You're going to get sins. Allah's going to ask you about this. You remind them. You tell them. You try to stop them. If someone is trying to steal, you go and try to stop them, even if you have to hold them back. But you have to stop them. You have a duty. And as I mentioned before, your tongues, your conversations, stop at giving advice to your brother or to your sister. Tell them, look, what you are doing is backbiting. What you are doing is not good. You're going to be questioned about this. Allah's going to ask you about this. The person is going to take your hasanat. It's not worth it. Remind them. Tell them you have a duty to stop the dhulm. Stand with your Muslim brothers and sisters against their own shaitan, against their own evil desires. So the next hadith that we will be discussing next week, inshallah, is the very famous and fundamental hadith. And this is the hadith that I would like you to all memorize if possible. Is the hadith that is narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma. بني الإسلام على خمس. شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة وحج البيت وصوم رمضان. Very, very famous hadith. This hadith will be shared with you, and inshallah, you can do the research, and you will be given an opportunity to do a quick explanation of the hadith. Let's do a quick pause here. There was a lot of stuff that I explained. I want to pause here. Are there any questions about anything? Knowledge, Aqeedah, hadith. Yes? So, this one? This one? This one? You forgot? Okay. Questions about anything? Everybody understands hadith? That stuff that I mentioned at the start beginning was not like that easy to understand, by the way. So it needs focus. So if you didn't understand it and you need some clarification, please let me know. Right. So let's do a quick Q&A session where I'm asking the questions and you need to give me the answers. Should we start with the boys or the girls?
Boys. Boys.
Boys, girls, boys, girls. We'll start with the boys, and then the boys will elaborate. So, what are some of the virtues and benefits of knowledge? Raise your hands if you want to answer. You get candy if you answer. Come on. Go do this to me. It's the first question of the series. It's not even a hard question. What are some of the benefits of knowledge? You don't know anything? You don't know what benefits knowledge at all? Yes, in the front?
When Allah grants good for anyone, He grants him the understanding of religion.
Perfect. Jazakallah khair. Gaining knowledge is the path to Jannah. Gaining knowledge raises your ranks. And it is people of knowledge who are the true believers. Girls, when we talk about religion, and pay attention to the question, what is the definition of Aqeedah? When we talk about religion, how do you define Aqeedah? Yes, in the front. Yes, you. The belief that someone has in their heart, how sure are they? Are like 100% or 99%? Full certainty. The belief that every person, that a person holds in his heart with full certainty. This means Aqeedah. When we talk about Islamic Aqeedah, what do we mean by this? Yes, Musab. Be more specific. So I mentioned to you when you hear the word Islamic Aqeedah, what should you think about? Yes, Musab, you can answer again. Which are? Jazakallah khair. Try to memorize these, please. Memorize these points, especially the pillars of Iman. These are extremely, extremely important. What are some other names for Islamic Aqeedah? Yes, Malak in the back. Yes, you. Jazakallah khair. Very, very good. So we have several names to it. We have Tawheed, we have Sunnah, we mentioned Usul al-Din, we mentioned Al-Fiqh Al-Akbar, we mentioned Iman, we mentioned Sharia. What is the definition of Hadith in Islam? When it comes to speaking about Islam, what is the definition of Hadith? Yes?
It refers to a statement from the Prophet ﷺ.
The statement of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that was narrated to us by his companions. How can we tell that a hadith was correctly told to us? Yes, Munib. Munib, yes. Through the isnad, the chain of narration. Very good. So we mentioned, you remember the telephone game? The chain of narration. We have the isnad, and when we have the grade of the hadith. We have authentic hadith and weak hadith. Okay? Who is Anas ibn Malik? I can't see who's in the back, but in the back corner. You in the back corner. raise your voice because I can't hear you.
He wasn't raising his hand.
Oh, you weren't raising your hand. Okay. You were very clearly raising your hand, but okay. Yes, Abdurrahman.
He was a person that narrated the Hadith of the week.
Okay, I know he narrated the Hadith of the week, but like, who is he? Tell me about him. Tell me something about him. No, nothing. I'm not paying attention, huh? Ibrahim. Asaf. He was the servant of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Jazakallah khair. He is a very famous narrator of Hadith, and he was a servant of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The servant, Khadim Rasulullah. What does it mean to help your brother even if he is oppressing? Fatima.
Easy question. Oh yeah, right.
By stopping him from committing the oppression to the best of your ability. Any questions so far? Okay. Back to me again. We're still not done. This series will be a very intensive series. So you need some focus, you need attention. So, we're going to start with fiqh. And just like we started the other two sections, we start by defining what is fiqh. When we talk about fiqh, pay attention boys and girls. When we talk about fiqh in the Arabic language, fiqh means to have a very deep understanding about something. It's not just you know something, you know it really, really, really well. You have a deep understanding. So when we see someone who is an expert in their field, whether that field is Islam, whether that field is engineering or medicine or anything, we can call that person, this is someone who has fiqh, because he has such a deep knowledge and understanding. Can you go sit there, please?
Teacher, people told me to say.
Okay. So, and this is why in the Quran also Allah uses the word yafqahun, right? That we reveal to them our signs لَعَلَّهُمْ يَفْقَهُونَ, so that they may obtain fiqh, so that they may gain a deep understanding about the existence of Allah and about the signs of Allah. So this is what fiqh means in the Arabic language. When we talk about fiqh in Islam, it refers specifically to rulings of Islam. And when I say rulings of Islam, it can apply to any action that you are doing in your life. It could be a social interaction. You know, maybe you're just talking to your friends. Or maybe you are selling something or buying something. Or you are dealing with another person. There is fiqh there. There are things that you can do and there are things that you cannot do. Or it could be an act of worship. So there is fiqh of salah, there is fiqh of zakah, there is fiqh of fasting. These are rulings of how do you perform this act of worship. Like for example, the fiqh of salah, and we're going to be learning about fiqh of salah. You're going to be learning about what is obligatory in your salah, what is wajib in your salah, what is sunnah in your salah, and what is the difference, what do all these terms mean? There is fiqh for everything that you do in your life, which is why mastering this knowledge, this field of fiqh, is a very high honor. And this is why the hadith we mentioned at the very beginning, مَنْ يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ. When Allah wants good for someone, He gives them the fiqh of the deen. Not just any normal fiqh, the fiqh of the deen. And a deep understanding of the Sharia and the Islamic rulings. Now overall, fiqh is a very deep field. And you can go to university and you can get degrees in fiqh. You spend several years studying fiqh. And it has many rulings, it has many scholars, it has opinions and differences in opinions and madhabs. So, 2 points here. First of all, we're not going to be covering every single chapter of fiqh. We're only going to be covering the fiqh which is relevant to our day-to-day lives. For example, we're probably not gonna study the fiqh of slavery. There's a chapter for fiqh of slavery, even though there's no slavery today, but it's found there because, historically speaking. But we're not gonna study that because we don't care about that today. We're gonna study things like tahara, we're gonna study things like salah, we're gonna study things like siyam, things like this. This is number one. And number two, we're gonna be studying something called Fiqh Al-Ijma. When you hear this word Al-Ijma, it means that all the scholars agree on it. They don't have differences in it. So, as I mentioned, fiqh is very deep. There are many scholars, and in certain things, scholars don't agree. And this scholar has one opinion. That scholar has a different opinion. This scholar has a different opinion. This scholar has a different opinion. And then you have to study all of these opinions. We're not going to even go into opinions. We're only going to study rulings which all the scholars have agreed upon. Okay? This is what we call al-ijma'. Whenever you hear this word al-ijma', ajma' al-ulama, or anything, whenever you hear this word ijma' in any sentence, it means the consensus and the agreement of the scholars. So, we're going to be staying away from any differences of opinions or any differences in the madhabs. And the first thing that you will find in almost every single book of fiqh out there, regardless of which madhab you are following, is Fiqh Al-Tahara. Fiqh Al-Tahara. Every single book, almost every single book, begins with this chapter. Why do we start with Tahara? And what is Tahara? We're going to define that in a second. Because you need Tahara for the most basic things in your deen. You need to have Tahara to pray. And prayer is a pillar of Islam. And you need to have 5 prayers a day. How can you pray? What's the point if I teach you how to pray Salah and you don't even know how to do Tahara? So this is why we start with Tahara. So, what is Tahara? Once again, what does it mean in Arabic? The English translation for the word Tahara is purification. But I will be using the word Tahara. So make sure when I say Tahara, you know what I mean. So Tahara means purification. In the Arabic language, in the Arabic language, Tahara refers to a state of being clean. Just generally being clean. So, if this table is clean, it's mashallah sparkling, shiny, I can say that, oh mashallah, it's a tahir table, it's a clean table. Or maybe you take a fresh shower and you come out and you wear some nice clothing, they're clean clothing, you smell nice, you say mashallah, this person he's a tahir person. You're clean and you're pure. This is in the Arabic language. But when it comes to Islam, the definition changes a little bit. Not everything and everyone who is clean is someone who has tahara. You can be someone who just took a shower and you're wearing the cleanest clothing in the world and you have the cleanest body in the world, but you might not have tahara. Why? We're going to explain that right now. In Islam, there are 2 types of tahara. There is, and please, again, you need to focus and you need to memorize these, and ideally write them down. There are 2 types of tahara in Islam. There is the spiritual tahara, okay? And there is the physical tahara. What is the difference? Spiritual tahara means in your faith. You have tahara from shirk. You have tahara from kufr. You are not associating any partners with Allah. And inshallah, nobody here is associating any partners with Allah. And nobody worships other than Allah. So, tahara from shirk and tahara from the things which Allah has forbidden you to do. So it's a spiritual tahara. It's a tahara for your soul. And we get this concept from the Quran actually. That Allah says in Surah Tawbah, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِنَّمَا الْمُشْرِكُونَ نَجَسٌ. Allah says in the Quran that, O believers, the disbelievers, those who worship other than Allah, they are najis, they are filthy, they don't have tahara. Now, does that mean that they're not physically clean? Does that mean that your Christian and Jewish friends, they don't shower and they just don't smell good? No, they do that. But they don't have a spiritual tahara. They don't have tahara from shirk. Does that make sense? So that is the first type of tahara. The tahara that we'll be focusing more on, and we'll be talking about its rulings and how to obtain it, is the physical tahara. Physical because it applies to your body. And the tahara for your physical body is defined as two things. Two things. رفع الحدث وإزالة النجس. This is the definition. To purify the body from what we call as the hadath, the impurity, and we're going to discuss this in a second, and to remove what we call najas, which is filthy, something that is filthy. Now what is hadath and what is najas? We're going to explain that in the next slide. What is hadath and what is najas? I couldn't find a better picture, sorry. This is the most, خلاص, whatever, it is what it is. Anything that counts as a filthy substance which cannot be on you at the time of salah is called najas. So it's a physical substance. So pay attention to this detail. Najas is a physical substance. You can have it on your body. You can have it on your clothing. Or it might also be on the place where you're praying. Okay? And examples for this, and again, we have to be very blunt when it comes to teaching tahara because we need to know our deen. Any urine and any poop is called najas. Pig, for example, is also najas. So you cannot go, for example, to the park and pray on a place that has dog poop where you're praying. Okay? It's najas. It's najas. You do not have tahara until you remove the najas. If you remove the najas, then okay, your tahara might be complete. You fulfilled one portion of your tahara if you took away the najas. And this is why when you go to the washroom and you do your business, you have to clean yourself. Why do you clean yourself? So that you don't have any najas on your body. So that when you're going to pray, you don't have any najas on you. And your prayer is accepted. And even though many of us are laughing, this is a big problem with the Muslims today. And many people, they don't clean themselves properly from the washroom. It's a serious issue. And maybe they pray with some drops of urine on their clothing. It's true, you're laughing, but some of us, we don't want to admit it, but it's true. If that is the case, you did not remove the najas, you are not in a state of tahara, your prayer is not accepted. This is a big problem. So, we all understand what is najas. So najas is something physical. I can see it, I can touch it, I can remove it. Right? This is najas. Now, what is hadath? Hadath is not something physical. I cannot see hadath. I cannot touch it, feel it, or take it out. Hadath is a state of impurity. And if I am in a state, if I have hadath, if I am in a state of hadath, I cannot pray, for example, or do certain actions. And there are two types of hadath. There's a minor hadath, and there is a major hadath. Now what defines minor and major, we're going to explain that later in the future. But you should know there are two types of hadath. Minor hadath and major hadath. And for every type of hadath, in order for me to purify myself, there is a certain action that I have to do. So to give you a very, very simple example that all of us understand. If you use the washroom and then leave the washroom, can you pray? But why not? Your body is clean and you clean yourself from najas and you don't have any najas on you. Why can't you pray?
No.
What are you missing? Wudu. So, using the washroom, we're going to explain that in the future. Using the washroom is a state of minor hadath. Even though, yes, your body might be clean, but you are in a state of impurity. You are in a state of impurity. And you need to go make wudu until for that impurity to get lifted, for you to become tahir, to become in a state of tahara again. And it depends on the impurity. If it's a minor impurity, you do wudu. Sometimes wudu is not sufficient. And sometimes you need to go and make ghusl. And you need to pour water on every part of your body for you to reach the state of tahara and to be able to pray again and perform certain acts of worship. Are you with me so far? Did I lose you? You with me? Everyone understands what is najis and what is hadath. Let's quickly summarize it. So tahara, how many kinds of tahara did we say we have? Two. What are they? Spiritual, physical. Very good. And physical, so we said spiritual is purifying yourself from what? From shirk. From your soul, from sins and shirk and associated partners with Allah. This is pure spiritual purification. Physical purification, we mentioned two things. What are they? So purifying from hadath and removing the najas. So purifying yourself from hadath and removing the najasa, the najas. For hadath, how many kinds do we have? Two. What are they? Minor and major. How do I clean the minor hadath? Wudu. And the major? Ghusl. Okay? And we're going to explain. If you don't know what wudu is, if you don't know what ghusl is, this is going to be covered in the future. And najasa, we said it has to be removed. Removed from where? We mentioned three things. Removed from where? I heard someone whispering it. Your clothing?
Your clothing or your body?
Your body or your prayer area. Okay? On your body, on your clothing, or on the area of prayer. Okay? This is the summary of what we're going to discuss today. Does everyone understand? Okay? Do you have any questions before I move on to the final portion, which is the seerah? Any questions about fiqh? We all know what is fiqh. We all understand tahara. We all understand the different types. Okay. Moving on to the last portion of the lecture. Inshallah, we'll finish that very, very soon. And that is the seerah. Once again, we need to define. What is seerah in the Arabic language? Seerah is coming from the word sara. Sara. Sara is a verb that means to walk or to travel somewhere, to travel on a path. So the word seerah is a noun which literally means like a life journey. It's like a path that you're walking in your life. And in English, we just summarize it and we just say biography. You guys know what this word is, biography? So everyone here, you have a seerah. Every single one of you here, you have a seerah for yourself. Because you have a story for your life. You know where you are born, where did you live when you were a kid, where did you grow up, where did you move, where did you study, this and that, you know. Everything that happened in your life, this is called your seerah. And everyone has a seerah. The Prophet has a seerah. The Sahaba have a seerah. You have a seerah. The author of a book, he has a seerah. This is what seerah means in Arabic. But of course, we all know and understand, it's very obvious, when we are in the context of Islam, seerah is referring to the seerah of one person, and that is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Specifically the seerah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason we study seerah, this is really important for us to understand. Because, and for those of you who are with me in the seerah program, you probably get this to a certain extent, inshallah. Seerah is not just a collection of stories. It's not just I tell you, oh, the Prophet grew up here, and then this happened to him, and then that miracle happened to him. It's not just stories. Even though, yes, they're enjoyable. They're fun, honestly, to listen to. But it's not just a collection of stories. It's not made stories for fun and as bedtime stories. No. Allah did not teach us the seerah and bring the seerah to us for fun. There is a much bigger purpose for this. Allah wants us to read the seerah and compare it to our lives and to reflect and to learn from it and to apply the teachings from the seerah in our own lives. The Quran, it came down with a lot of teachings, a lot of rules, a lot of things telling you, you need to do this. Quran tells you, you need to do your prayers. Quran tells you, you need to perform, you need to pay your zakah. Okay? But does the Quran, for example, tell you how many rak'ahs is for prayer? Does it tell you you need to make do Allahu Akbar and then read Surah Al-Fatiha and then the ruku' and sujood? Doesn't tell you that. The Quran that tells you, orders you, go and pray. Okay, but how do I know how to pray? Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is why when we learn the seerah, we learn our deen. The Quran is our textbook. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is our teacher. So, by studying the seerah, you are literally studying the story and the life of the person who has the highest rank in Jannah. You know, to kind of give a similar example, you guys know how in your class there's always that one really, really smart kid that always gets 100 in everything, and you just like, how is this person doing it? And you're like, Akhi, whatever you're doing, I want to do it so I can also get 100%, right? So you want to probably study the same way that person is studying. You want to probably stick close to that person and learn from them so that you can also get grades as good as them. Well, it's not much different here. Our goal in life is that we want to, all of us want Jannah. And all of us not just want Jannah, we want the highest rank of Jannah. Well, if you want the highest rank of Jannah, then this is how you get it. Go and study his life. And not just how to achieve Jannah. Also, and this is something for the whole Muslim Ummah to reflect on today. If the Muslim Ummah wants to regain its glory and regain its victory, and you want Islam to become victorious and number one, you want Palestine to be free, you want Islam to no longer be weak in the world, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave you step by step plan. Because at the time of Prophet there was no Islam in the world. Zero. It's not like today even. It's not like Muslims are being punished and tortured. No. There were no Muslims even in the world. Yet within only 23 years, Islam spread all over the world. So much so, and it rippled across the whole world that to this day we still feel those ripples. All from this one person whom Allah has sent to us. Why did Allah show us and teach us a seerah? So that we can follow what He did and we can also apply it in our times today so that we can regain it in the top. And I am telling you today, and take it or leave it, the victory for the Ummah today and in Palestine and in other places in the world, it's not going to come by the armies, it's not going to come with the nuclear weapons, it's not going to come with all these different governments. It comes by us going back to our roots, going back and studying the original and applying the Sunnah. If you do that, in tansurullaha yansurkum. You do this, the victory of Allah has to come down. So, some of the the reasons why we study the seerah, and we already mentioned some of them. Obviously, by following the Prophet ﷺ, he is a role model for us. And this is what the Quran says. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ. You want to succeed in the Day of Judgment? You want to win Jannah? You want to look good in front of Allah? That's your role model. Study him and you will achieve that. So, of the reasons why studying Seerah is important, so today we're actually not going to start Seerah, we're just going to mention why is it important. It helps us understand the Quran. Seerah helps us understand the Quran. The Quran cannot be understood without context. The Quran needs context. And for example, many of us, we have Surah Al-Duha memorized. And you go and read وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَلَى. You go and read the translation by the morning sunlight, and by the night as it clears up, your Lord has not abandoned you and He does not hate you. Okay, what does this mean? Your Lord has not abandoned you and does not hate you. You're like, okay, khalas, whatever. When you go and read the Seerah, and you learn when was Surah Al-Duha revealed, and you learn that it was revealed at a time when Jibreel stopped coming down, and the Prophet ﷺ was being mocked, and he was extremely sad, and he thought that Allah stopped the revelation because, I don't know whose kid that is, but please put a leash on him, please. Okay. So when you learn about the sadness of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, the whole Surah Al-Duha gains a whole new meaning. That your Lord has not abandoned you. Your Lord does not hate you. So, by studying the Seerah, a lot of the Quran actually starts to gain meaning. You will learn about the Battle of Badr. Only for those of us who study the Seerah, you will know. The Battle of Badr, Surah Al-Anfal, all of it, Battle of Badr. You go and study Battle of Badr, you will understand the full Surah Al-Anfal. You go and read about the Battle of Uhud and study the Battle of Uhud, half of Ali Imran will make sense. You go and read about and study the Battle of Tabuk, most of Surah Al-Tawbah will make sense. The Quran gains meaning through the Seerah. Of the reasons why Seerah is important, then this brings us back to the very beginning, when I was asking you these warm-up questions, and I was asking you, boys, you have to keep silent, please. Please, this is not talking, please, we're talking. Please go and sit down. If you are someone who is claiming, nowadays if I walked in the street, and I ask any single Muslim walking in the street, and I ask them, hey, do you love Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? Yeah, of course I do. And in fact, some of them will get irritated and offended at your question, like, how dare you ask me that question? Astaghfirullah. Obviously I love the Prophet. Okay, what do you know about the Prophet? Nothing. If you want to prove to someone that you love them, you show effort towards them. At least you know about them. You know about what they like, what they dislike. You want to do the things that they love. You want to follow their steps. You want to know as much as you can about them. So by studying, if you want to prove to Allah, not to me, not to anyone, you don't care about proving to anyone. If you want to prove to Allah that I actually love the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you do that by learning about the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. This is the number one way. And subhanAllah, when you go and read the Seerah, and you learn about the mercy of the Prophet, the love, the gentleness, the tenderness, the incidents, how he interacted with the kids, with the Sahaba, with his wives, you will find it's impossible not to have a love for this man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is one of the reasons why we learn the Seerah. Of the reasons we learn the Seerah is by learning the Seerah, when you are learning the Seerah, naturally speaking, you will also learn about the Sahaba. How do we learn about Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? How do we learn about Umar al-Khattab, Uthman ibn Affan, Bilal ibn Rabah, Suhaib al-Rumi, and all of these big, massive Sahaba? Well, with the Seerah. Through the life of Prophet ﷺ, we get to see he met Abu Bakr, he met Uthman, he met Bilal, he met this, he met that. And we learn about their stories, we learn about their struggles, we learn about their lives and what they did. We learn the Seerah of the Sahaba through the Seerah of the Prophet. And once again, by learning about someone, you develop a love for them. You start to actually know who Abu Bakr is and what he did and why we love Abu Bakr, why we love Umar, why we love Uthman and all of these Sahaba radiyallahu anhum ajma'in. And the last point that we will mention, literally by studying the Seerah, you are studying how Islam came to be. I mentioned Islam was zero. There was no Islam. Okay, how did we eventually come to have Aqeedah? How did I come to teach you this entire lecture? Aqeedah and Fiqh and Hadith and all of these different things. Where did they originally come from? They came from the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So naturally, when you study the Seerah, you will gain an understanding of Aqeedah, you will gain an understanding of Hadith, you will hear a lot of incidents and you're like, oh, that's that one Hadith. Oh, that's where it came from. I remember that Hadith, I read it. Oh, it happened over there. So you start putting things together. And rulings and fiqh, again, all happened from the life of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So you are seeing a history of how our deen came to be, and you are also seeing how the Muslim world came to be. Why is Mecca such a big deal? And the Kaaba such a big deal? Why is Mecca haram? And why is it so holy? Why is Medina haram? Where did the Masjid al-Nabawi came to be? Why is Medina so special? Why are the Muslims in that city and in this city and that city? All of this is a study of history that we get through the Seerah. Are there any questions about Seerah or about fiqh? Or about anything that we discussed in the lecture? If not, then we're going to move to questions. I think I started with the voice again. In Islam, what is the definition of fiqh? Yes. The rulings of Islam. So the rulings of Islam and the way, the things that Allah taught us in terms of how we should live our life. Allah and His Prophet teach us how to live our life. This is fiqh.
Get ready.
And what does Fiqh Al-Ijma mean? Yes, at the very back. Yes. What is Fiqh Al-Ijma? So the Islamic rule, very good. So Islamic rulings, but these are rulings which all the scholars agree upon. Next time, please don't bring that to class. You're here to play, don't come to class next time, okay? Please. This is not a playground. You want to come play? Go play outside. The parking lot is empty for you to go and run around the whole time. The rulings which all the scholars agree upon, and there are no differences in opinions. What are the two kinds of tahara? Anyone who has not answered, anyone wants to answer? Yes? Physical and the spiritual tahara, which is from the sins and from the shirk, and the physical tahara from the najis and the hadath. What is the difference between najis and hadath? Someone has not answered. Yes? So very good, this is one of the differences. So we define najis. Najis is something filthy, the filthy substance, and it has to be physically removed. It's on the body, or it's on the clothing, or it's on a surface, and you need to physically remove it. Hadath is not something physical, you cannot remove it physically, you cannot take it out. But it is a state of impurity, and you either need to do ghusl or wudu, depending on if it's major or minor impurity. In Islam, what does seerah mean? Someone is not answering. Yes, in the middle. Yeah, you.
It means like the story of the Prophet.
Jazakallah. The life of the Prophet ﷺ. And how does the seerah connect us to the Quran? What did we mention? Yes, Samira. Many verses of the Quran gain meaning and a background and a context when you read about them in the seerah. How does the seerah connect us to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? Yes?
It's like a biography.
So when you read the biography, what happens?
You gain more knowledge about it.
Gain more knowledge, but when I say related to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ,
You get to love it.
exactly. We gain, when we read about him and his manners and behaviors and his struggles and all of this, it increases our iman and it increases our love towards the Prophet as well. How does the seerah connect us to the Sahaba? was not answered. Who's raising their hand in the back? Maria. Mhm. Very good. So, the seerah of the Prophet also mentions the struggles of the Sahaba and their stories and their background. So, once again, it builds up our iman and it develops our love towards them. So, before we conclude the lecture, I know we're a little bit over time. For just before, please nobody stand up and nobody start moving around. I just want to explain something that we do in our lecture. That we have this points system. So we have challenges and there's also homework, whether that is hadith homework, and the homework I'm going to give you that in the next slide. If you complete them, you will earn points. I will not check your homework. I'm not gonna, this is not school, okay? I'm not gonna go, oh no, hey, can you do your homework? No, this is for you. You want to do it, you can do it. And I encourage you to do it so that the information that you studied today, which is a lot of information, it gets stuck in your head. You gain an understanding. So you earn points by completing homework and challenges. These challenges and this homework will be sent in a WhatsApp group. We have a group on WhatsApp called Islam 101. If you want to be a part of this group, after the class is done, please come either to myself or to teacher Fatima, and we will add you to that group and you will be receiving these challenges. And when do you do these points? Well, when you collect the points, usually after every few months, we see, I take a look who are the people with the most points. Usually I pick like 10 or 15 people, and we hand them out gift cards with money in them. So, wait, what? Yeah. So, there you go. Okay. So your homework for next week will be the hadith that I shared with you earlier in the slide. And maybe spelled homework. Okay. So researching the hadith. Just read the hadith, go look it up here, go listen to a video about it, go read it on Google, and just write a few points. I'm not telling you do a whole, mashallah, thesis and a research about it and an essay. No. Give me like 2 sentences, 3 sentences. Tell me what you learn about the hadith and what you understand. And also, I will send you these 8 questions, which I explained all of them in the lecture today. 8 questions. I will share with them share them in the WhatsApp group chat. I will probably send out the questions either today or tomorrow. So if you want to receive these challenges and questions, once again, come up to us, and we will give you, inshallah, your award. And with that said, this is where we conclude, inshallah.